everybody. I'm Jenna. This is Apple Dolly and welcome. I also want to welcome all of our new members. We have 12 new members. I just checked since New Year's Eve. So we have broke the 300 mark and I appreciate all of you. And to the one person that's been going crazy inviting people. If you saw the post earlier, I am having a contest this month. We're going to do it for a couple of months. That whoever each month gets the most people to join will get some Happy Mail. Now it could be craft supplies. It could be my favorite glue sticks, which are Gorilla Glue. It could be a glue gun. It could be the supplies to make whatever our most popular live was throughout the month. Or it could be an item that we've made and you really liked it and want it. So what we're making, if you saw my post the last couple of days, this is Pantry Week. What is Pantry Week? We are making things that we can decorate our kitchens with. So today is a basket. So the items we need, now you've seen me make several things out of these poly mailers. This is another one. This one is from Amazon. And I've turned it inside out because I want all of that writing on the inside. Okay? Another thing we need is, please let me know if the lighting is okay, because my eyes are going crazy on me today, and if you can hear me. So another thing we need is a brown paper bag, and I picked it up at Aldi's, and I just straightened the top of it off, and then I just cut the whole bag in 1-inch strips. Okay? Just strips. I just went straight across it. Then what you want to do is find where the bag is glued and just pull it apart. Sometimes it'll pull right apart, other times you just got to rip it open. Just like that. So now see how wrinkled this is, and then you got all these folds and stuff. Well, the mat that I made that we're going to use was this wrinkled, and I had a difficult time doing it. So you can iron this to get all these wrinkles out. I've been told a lot of people don't own irons anymore, so I guess I'm just one of those strange people. So most of you have a flat iron. Now I use this in my sewing room to straighten out my ribbons. You can use your flat iron. It's not going to do anything to it. It's not going to do anything to your iron. So just put your strip of paper, your brown paper bag, in there and just pull it. Get it hot and just pull it. And it gets out all those creases. And it makes it easier to use. Just pull it right over. Now, don't do what I do. I plugged this in, sat it on top of a plastic bag. So it's got plastic melted on it. So it's sticking to the bag. So I'm going to have to clean that off. Yeah, just pull it through. Just like that. And it's straight. So what we're going to do is the old elementary basket weave. You know, you cut strips and you go over, under. So it depends on the size of your poly mailer, what size and how many strips of brown paper bag you need. So you want to measure top to bottom and leave about another inch. Okay, we're going to trim it at the end, and then measure the diameter of your bag and leave an inch. So that's how you need to basket weave, how much you need. So I just held this on. I held it over an inch and wrapped it around, not tightly, I loosely did it. And then that's how long I cut my strips. And I laid them down on my surface. Now the print on the bag, you want down. That's going to be against your poly mailer. We don't want to see that, okay? So that's what you do. cut a whole bunch of them. Now, if your poly mailer is bigger than you want, just like before, we just cut it off and then hot glue that cut side. We only need one open side. So you could do it this way, you could do it this way, and this basket we're going to use on Friday for those pantry tarts that we're making. So we're making a basket. So just in case somebody doesn't know how to do basket weave, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to move the camera down, and excuse all this mess back here. I'm in back in my husband's work space, and we had company this week, so we had to move a whole bunch of stuff around. So I'm going to move you down so you can see my table. You don't need to see me. Let me get this right. Okay, so I've laid out a bunch of strips. Now on one side, it doesn't matter which side, you want them to fairly be even. They don't have to be exact, but just fairly even. And then whatever the length of your basket is what we're going to start over, under, okay? So we're going over the bottom, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Now we're going to move this to as far as the edge as we can. One of your sides is going to be fairly straight, and the other one's going to be kind of askewed. It's going to be crazy. So just move this first strip over as far as you can. Now what we're going to do, I've got glue strings everywhere already. We're just going to glue the top and bottom, and you don't need very much glue. I'm using hot glue so that we can get through this. You can use any glue, it's up to you. Now all of the strips that are on top of the strip we just woven through, we also want to just put a dot of glue on those. My hot glue gun isn't quite hot enough because I always forget to plug it in, always. Now that is glued, okay? It's not going to go anywhere, and you want to glue all those top strips because it's going to help you with all the strips after it. You want to glue all the tops and the bottoms of every strip. Now these inside ones, you only need the top and bottom glued. The two end ones, you need to glue the strips that are on the top first. And when we get done with this whole thing, we're going to flip it over, and all of the two ends that are not glued, we're going to glue them down too. Okay? So just keep doing that. Over, under. So we went over the first one, we're going under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And then we're just going to wiggle it to as close as we can get it to the first strip. So when I just cut straight across my bags, they did not come out even like I thought they would. But you know what? That's okay because this is primitive, right? So this one, we're only going to glue the top and the bottom. So the next one, we're going over, under, over, under, over, under. And by gluing these, you see how this is not so crazy, the strips. You don't have to keep doing this. If you did not glue the top and bottom of these, you would have a really hard time. You just want to make sure, you know, just look at it a little bit, make sure that it's lined up enough, and then just glue the top and bottom. Okay, and then when you get all the way to the end, you want to glue all of these strips When you get done with it, flip it over, and then just on the two ends, all the strips that didn't get glued on the front, you want to glue on the back. So all four sides of this mat that you made with these bags are glued, and it becomes one solid piece. So let me move this out of the way and get the one that I've made. Okay, this is the back side. So this side is completely done. So we need to glue this other end. So all of the strips that are under, see there's a strip going over top of this one. We want to fold this back and glue it. Every one. So then we're going to flip it over, and now we have these sticking out. So we're going to fold these over. We're going to cut them to about a 1/2 inch, because remember, this is longer than our bag. And if you have to trim up your top and bottom, and this does need trimmed, we're going to do that too. So we're going to glue these. Now, some of my strips, as you see, because this is the top, there's print showing up. So we're going to get our bag, and we're going to lay it down here. And we're going to try to get this as even as possible. Now my strips were not even, so I'm going to have to trim this off. But you want it to be flush with the bottom of your bag. Okay? So I'm going to lay this in the middle, flatten this out. And because this end has ink showing and this end does not. Wait a minute, we got the front of the bag here. Let's flip this over. Okay, get this right. You want the print on the inside. There's print showing on this side. So I'm going to flip it over. I'm getting the top of my bag even with the weave. And I'm going to flip this over, and I'm just going to press it down. And then I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Now these should overlap just a little bit. See? So we have a basket weave. So I'm going to glue all down one side, half the top and half the bottom. And I'm going to fold this back over into the glue. And I'm just pressing it. Now I'm going to lift this up and do the very same thing. Half, half. And I'm going to pull this kind of taut to make sure that that gets stuck into that glue really well. And you just keep pressing it. It gets in there. So now that's glued. Let's lift up the bag and glue. And don't run out of glue stick like I just did. Never fails. Okay, so then we're going to glue the top of the bag down the side and across the bottom. And I'm overlapping the cut edges or the two edges just a little bit. Okay, so now this is all encased. I'm going to pull this edge back and just run a bead of glue right there. So now we have a brown paper bag basket. But we still have this rough edge here. So the pieces that are on the top, we're just going to flip over and tuck in. All across it. Tuck it right in there. So now the pieces that is left, we're just going to fold those over. And we're going to glue these ones down. Now they will hold. The first ones we tucked under in. You might have to tuck them back in again. So just squeeze them, just put some pressure on it, and then we're going to glue them. Okay. So far we have a poly mailer that we would have thrown away, a brown paper bag from Aldi's. What are they, 7 cents? Now you can use gift wrap. You can do this with ribbon if you don't want this primitive look. Scrapbook paper. Oops, that one's coming loose. Or you can just turn your poly mailer inside out and use it, because it's brown paper bag too. But because we're making a basket, I wanted it to look like a basket. I wanted the basket weave. And I'm using very little glue. Okay. So there you go. And if you have one sticking up like I do here, just put a dot of glue under it. There you go. So now my top is not even. So I have an overhang. I'm just going to fold it under. Just fold it under, because I am one strip higher than my bag. So I'm just going to fold it in, and then I'm going to glue that also. And when you get this many layers of bag, you really got to press on this to get this seam, this bend to stay. See how I did that? And I'm just going to glue it. Because once you bend it in and crease it, it'll stay somewhat for you to get it glued. So if you have to, you can just open up your bag like this to get your glue gun in there. Ooh, stuck my finger in it. That's the problem with these glue guns. The longer they're on, the hotter they get. Now I also am using some packing styrofoam. Whew, yow. You know, it's kind of smart if you're using a hot glue gun, especially for a long period of time like I've been doing today. to have a glass of ice water, which I don't have here. So, okay. So there we go. Our edge is turned under, that edge is turned, and our bag is completely covered in this basket weave. So it sort of looks like a basket. So I also have grunge here. Those of you that are new who don't know what the grunge is, the recipe is pinned to the top of the page. Grunge is basically hot water and instant coffee. Now you can personalize it any way you want. I add cinnamon and vanilla to it. You can add as little or as much as you want. You can add ginger, nutmeg, allspice, apple pie spice, pumpkin pie spice, or you can just leave the vanilla and the spices out. If you can just use it as a stain, because that's what it is. That's what grunge is a stain made with coffee. Now coffee, tea dyeing, all of that has been around forever. I mean, I did this back in the 90s when I had my first store, 80s, 90s. So it's been forever. So I like the instant coffee better than tea. You get a darker stain with it. I'm still picking this glue off my fingers. It hurts. So I don't know if you can tell, but right there is where we overlapped our edges. So I'm using that as my back. Pull these glue strings off. And I'm going to use the other side as my front. Now I'm going to take some of the grunge. Now grunge has to be refrigerated after you make it. I made a triple batch in November and this is what's left. It has to be shook every time. You have to refrigerate this because it is food. It's coffee, vanilla, and spices, and it will mold. Keep it in the refrigerator. When you take it out, pop it in your microwave for just enough to warm it. And then you have to really shake this because your spices will settle in the bottom of your jar. Okay? Hi, Rose. So each time you use this throughout even one project, you got to constantly shake this because your spices do not dissolve. They instantly start to shrink. But it smells so good. If you love coffee and you like whatever spice you add to this, this smells so good. So we are going to coat this bag in grunge. You can do the whole bag. You can do just the front part of the bag. We're doing the whole bag. And this paper dries pretty quick. It just soaks up this. So our kids left late last night. They got home early this morning. My daughter was visiting her husband. He is deployed, so her and the kids over the holidays. He's in DC right now, so they went there to see him because he's on almost a 2-year deployment. So we've been busy. And then I had to take all my camera stuff down to make room for the kids that came here. So I am back in Tony's workroom. That's where I'm set up right now. So I'm also working on a puppy pad from Dollar Tree that catches all the yuck because sometimes our crafting does get a little messy, and you just roll it up, throw it away, or shake it off and reuse it. I've reused these 3 or 4 times. So the whole bag is grunged, front and back. Okay? So while this is still damp, I'm going to take some extra cinnamon and I'm just going to lightly sprinkle it over, just around the edges, just lightly. Now, the heavier you go with cinnamon, because we're going to rub this into the grunge, it starts to look like rust. And we're just going to go right around the edges. So I have this very lightly sprinkled because we're also going to grunge our label. Now the label came from Etsy and it was the chocolate rabbit. You get multiple labels. She has different sets. This is the one, well, I purchased all of her sets and they were like $23. This is the one I've chosen to use on this basket. It's a chocolate rabbit and they're only like $2.99, $3.99 a set. So they're very cheap. And she has some of them aged, and then some of the sets you also get a black and white copy. What I do is I make 2 copies of all the labels. One of them I put away so I can recopy them, and one of them I use. So you can use these forever then. You can also, on your printer or your computer, you can enlarge them and you can reduce them. So there are so many ways to use these. But it's the chocolate rabbit on Etsy. And it's already aged. I'm going to set this aside, let it dry a little bit. We're going to run some more grunge over it. And what doing this does is it brings out those colors. I know it's just black and like a sepia tone, but look at that. It just brought it out more. So we have a couple videos ago, we took some of the grunge and Mod Podge and mixed them together, and that's what we're using to put this on the bag. Look at this, it's almost dry. See that? Now this also, you have to shake if you mix your Mod Podge and grunge together, because the spices in it too. See that? So I'm going to Mod Podge the back of the label, and it's barely damp. We've used hardly any grunge on it. So we're just going to do this. This has coffee and the cinnamon and vanilla in it. You can leave one of those out. You can add more. That is something that you totally can personalize. Now one of these baskets I put the label on upside down, so that's why I put my hand here to make sure that I'm putting this label on right. And I'm just going to stick it right in the center. And then I'm going to Mod Podge over top of that again. Just basic Mod Podging here. So the contest, I hope you all get involved in. It's going to run all month. Invite your friends. And whoever gets the most people to join, we already have one person that's got 12 people join it, that has joined since New Year's Eve. That's when I first posted the contest. So, oops, I got glue string stuck in this. Yuck. So a good way to get rid of your glue strings is to hit them with a hairdryer. They instantly disappear. So there you go. Now I'm going to Mod Podge the whole front of this. I'm just going to put Mod Podge on it. What that will do will help this stiffen up. when it dries, it'll be stiffened because the Mod Podge is a glue. Okay, we're gonna just continue working on this because right now it's just like a pocket that we made earlier. I'm gonna stick my hand down inside into the corner and I'm gonna open up this edge. I'm gonna flatten out the corner. See how I'm doing that? I'm just flattening it out and I'm gonna fold it up and I'm going to hot glue that. And what that's going to do is give us a square bottom or rectangle bottom. And I'm just going to hot glue this. I'm just going to hold it for a second. And then we're going to give this corner, both of these corners, some detail, and then we're going to Mod Podge the back of this basket also. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Stick your finger in the corner and just flatten this out. And because we turned this bag inside out, you're going to have some bulk here, but that's okay. So now see, it stays open. What we're going to do from each one of these corners we made, we're just going to put our finger in there and we're just going to kind of squeeze this to make a seam all the way up both corners, both sides. So we want this to stay open. And we're going to put some, I am using packing styrofoam. If you got stuff for Christmas that packing styrofoam came in, I hope you kept some of it because we've been crafting with a good bit of it. Let's see how that stays open now, like a basket. If you don't have any, you can use probably a bag this size would take 1.5 bricks of the floral foam from Dollar Tree. That's the cheapest place to get it. And I'm just coating the back side of this bag with the Mod Podge, just a thin layer, just enough to help stiffen this. Okay, so the whole bag has been Mod Podged on the outside. And I'm just going to push this in the bottom to try and get this to stand. It doesn't need to stand because on Friday we're going to put a handle on this. But also on Friday we're going to finish this basket with the things that we're making to go in it. So I'm going to sit this aside. I'm going to lean it against my jar here. And I've got some thumbtacks. Just regular thumbtacks. And I thought it would be cute where this point comes up to stick one of these. We're going to glue it. Whoop, I got glue strings. Just stick it in there. Push it through. Just a little detail, and then we're going to glue it. But you want to push it through first because you don't want the glue on your fingers. Okay, I'm just putting a tiny dot of glue where that hole is, and then I'm going to push this back in. I'm just using one on each side. Can you see that? But you absolutely could go all the way up and down that V. But it just gives it a little tiny bit of detail. And you don't feel it on the inside because you're going through so many layers because we folded that edge up. And it wouldn't matter, ouch, if you felt it anyway, because we're going to have styrofoam in there, or floral foam. Okay, now I'm going to cut this. I have packing styrofoam. And I just have sheets of it. So I'm going to roughly guess how much I need here. It does not have to fit in tight, but you do want 3/4 of this basket with something in it. You can put your plastic grocery bags in the bottom and put a piece of styrofoam on the top. So I'm just sticking this down in there. Now I need about another half a piece of this. So you want 3/4 of your basket full, because the pantry tarts that we're making on Friday is going to go in this basket. And you can see the lineup. I posted it this morning, and I posted it a couple of times over the weekend. Oops, I got a strip that came loose. Or maybe I didn't even get that one glued. See? Just like that. So far, this is what we got made. And I'm pushing this styrofoam down in there to kind of flatten out the bottom. It doesn't need to be flat. Like I said, we're going to put a hanger on this. But that is what we have so far. So I also made a raffia bow. Get these pieces of styrofoam out, and I don't want them to dry on there. So I just took a bunch of it and made just a simple bow. So I'm going to make this pull this smaller. And then we'll trim this up. And I thought this would be cute right there. Right at the top. Maybe on the side. What do you think? Side or top? So there is our pantry basket. Now you can add flowers to this. You can do a lot of different things to this. But we're going to put our pantry tarts on Friday in here. Styrofoam pieces are stuck to my Mod Podge. So there you go. That's what we have so far. Now I'm going to squirt some glue down in the inside here, just so that styrofoam stays stuck to the bag. Because once we add all of our stuff to it, we don't want it moving. Okay. Oh, you said the side rows. I didn't see that till right now. So we have about 2.5 inches here that we're going to put our tarts in there. So what do you think of this so far? Brown paper bag, a poly mailer that we would throw away, packing styrofoam that we would throw away. The label came in I got a bunch of them. So it was $2.99, so this is probably 75 cents for the label. Mod Podge that we've been using since November. Grunge that we've been using since November. Now we can grunge this up even more. Since the Mod Podge is wet, we could take some instant coffee, just the granules, and lightly sprinkle them over. Take our brush and just work them in. Now these granules are not going to dissolve. They only dissolve in hot water or boiling water. But what they do is just make it look older, rustier. Let's put some on here. Like this basket has been well used and loved and abused, and there you go. We just grunged it more. Now you can add extra cinnamon to this since your Mod Podge is wet. You can add as much instant coffee as you want. So there you go. That part is done. But we're not done with it. So I'm going to get this basket off of this thing because I'm getting pieces of styrofoam stuck to it. So thank you for joining me. Wednesday, 3 o'clock, we're doing a jar. A pantry jar. And then Friday, we're doing the tarts. We're doing those on Friday because they're a little more involved. Thanks for joining me. God bless you all. I hope you all have a very happy new year. And join me on Wednesday, 3 o'clock. Thanks. Bye, Rose.